Welcome to today's episode of Spill Your Beans. We'd like to welcome Raman to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, welcome to the show. Now, how did you get involved? Well, you know what? Let's not get to what you do.
Okay.
Who are you?
Well, I'm Raman. From Surrey.
Okay.
I'm a professional art therapist and a registered clinical counselor, but I've always been interested in psychology and art for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid.
Like you've always analyzed little things of like why people do what they do?
Before I knew the word for what psychology was or what counseling was, I've always been interested in why people do the things that they do, why we all have different personalities, and why different people who grew up in the exact same way behave differently in different situations. So it's something I've just always had a curiosity for.
And any conclusions, or we're still trying to figure that out?
I think I'm going to be figuring it out for a long time.
Now, are you in school for that?
I just graduated this past year, so I just finished my master's in counseling psychology and art therapy.
Whoa. Did you just say master's?
Yes, I just finished my master's.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you finish your master's at the age of 25?
I just didn't really take a lot of time off. I went to my undergrad. I did university right after high school. I took a year off to work and kind of figure out what I wanted to do, and then I just started my master's right away.
And how long is your master's program?
It was a 2-year program that I did.
Wait, I'm just trying to do the math here, which is not so good sometimes. But so and you took a year off?
I did, yeah.
What did you do in that year?
I was working with children who had developmental disabilities part-time, and I was kind of just figuring out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I did my undergraduate degree with a major in psychology and a minor in counseling and human development. And I really liked all of that, but I didn't really like the whole research side of everything. I've never been a lab person. I've never been super into the science and research part of it. But I always loved the counseling and the face-to-face talking to people, so I knew I wanted to do that. And I was working with children who had developmental disabilities, which I really, really enjoyed as well. And so I knew I liked working hands-on, one-on-one, and doing something that was a bit more fun. All the programs that I'd looked at that point were all research-based. It was a lot of working in laboratories for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and that wasn't really what I had in mind. That wasn't really what made me happy. So I took a year off. I started applying to different schools and looking into different programs. And the one that I ended up going to was at Adler University, and it kind of came across as a complete happy accident is what I like to call it. I went for the information session one day, and I had actually applied just for the Master's of Counseling Psychology program, which again was more research-based and not so much what I wanted to do. And the day that I went there, the lady who was the director of the art therapy program came up to me. She looked me right in the eyes and she said, "You look like you're kind of artistic. Would you be interested in this new program we have starting?" I was completely hooked from the moment she started talking about it, and it was the first year that they had actually started the art therapy program. So I signed up right away, applied, got in, and I got accepted for the first year that they were running it.
Wow. Now,
Yeah.
Did you have to do any labs there?
Not so many. It was a lot of fun stuff.
When? Was it at a young age or as you're growing up in life that you decided that you want to help people in I guess, disabilities? What you call it? Mental disability, health disability? What's the right word? I don't want to be...
I don't think there's a right word for it. I just want to help people regardless of whether they have a disability or not. I just want to help people who are struggling or who need someone to talk to, or they just need guidance in figuring out what it is that works for them, if that makes sense. A lot of the people that I work with now, they don't have a diagnosable mental illness or a developmental disorder or anything. A lot of them are just everyday people who are just struggling with things related to relationship issues or conflict with their parents or their friends, just daily struggles. And I kind of work across the board. I like to do all of that. And it's something I've always been interested in. I think it's just my personality type. I like talking to people. I like connecting with people. And I just like helping people figure out all the things that are working for them already, all the strengths that they have, and how they can use those to better their own life.
Wow. Now I know I could use some strength and better my own life a little bit. Now, how do I reach out to you? Do I just say, hey, I want to take some classes? Do I fill out a form of things that I might want to talk about? Or it's just an open session where you ask me questions?
So I'm actually working at a clinic right now, the Family Hope Clinic. And so you can reach us at our website, which is familyhopeclinic.com. And we also have Instagram and Facebook. And our information email is on there as well, which is just info@familyhopeclinic.com.
Okay, we'll bring all that up as we're closing the show down, you guys, so you don't have to write it down right now. We'll also share it on our social media.
For sure.
Now, this clinic, is it also in Surrey?
Yeah, it's in the Cloverdale area, so it's technically in Surrey, closer to the border of where Langley is. And we have talk therapy, yoga therapy, play therapy, art therapy. So it's a really good fit, I think, for a lot of different types of people who maybe don't want to go down the traditional route of talk therapy, but we offer a little bit of everything.
Now, is this discreet? Like some people wouldn't want anybody to know they're going seeing a psychiatrist type thing. Like people would think it's faux pas. Oh, why are you seeing a psychiatrist? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, is this open? I guess it's confidential either way if anybody comes sees you.
Yes, it is confidential, and everything that everyone talks about in session is confidential as well. So it's just the way that you would imagine a doctor's clinic. And we call ourselves a clinic versus like a psychiatric facility or anything like that.
More accessible to people and
It
more,
is.
yeah.
It's really accessible. So it's a clinic that you can come to. We offer one-on-one sessions. We do workshops in the community. We do group sessions, and we also do home visits. So, like you mentioned, if you want to be a little bit more discreet about it, or it's something you're not so comfortable with, we can set up a consultation to come to your house and talk to you one-on-one in an environment that you're more comfortable in.
All right, and then you brought up community.
Right.
Now we're speaking English here. Our show is in English as well.
Yeah.
But is there other languages? Say somebody doesn't speak English very well, and they're watching, like, oh, I like that. I like art. That could help me.
Right.
Would they be able to relate somehow? Is there other language speakers at the clinic?
Right now, I think everyone at the clinic is an English speaker, but one of the great things about that is if you're not proficient in English or you're not as comfortable in it, that's where the expressive therapies come into play, which is really great. So things like art and yoga, those are a bit more accessible to anyone regardless of what type of language you speak because it's less verbal, which is one of the reasons that I love art therapy so much, is that it works for anyone regardless of age, gender, ability level. You don't even have to be artistic to do it, which is so great. And it really sets you up for success because anyone can be successful at it.
I think you're right. And you know what? Language is the barrier sometimes. And you don't speak the language well, you can't communicate in the right words.
Yeah.
And drawing that picture or sharing it, that it's what they're saying. It's literally right there. They're
Yeah.
not trying to say a word they're not sure of.
Exactly.
Well, that makes sense. Now, say I wanted to come in and have a session with you. I got to call in advance. I can just show up at your door. How does that work?
So you would have to call in advance. So we have an email you can email or a phone number, which I can leave the information with you. Just call in. You don't have to be completely sure about what it is that you want. Just say, hey, I'm looking to meet with someone. And then we can set up a free consultation. So our consultations are 1 hour long or 50-minute sessions. They're completely free. So it's a good way to come in, talk, see if it's going to be a good fit for you without actually having to make that commitment or that financial or time commitment. Just talk, get to know us. We'll get to know you. We'll talk about some of the things that you're struggling with, what you want to work on, and make a plan for you to go forwards if you are interested in it.
So all of you guys just watching, you heard that right there. Call in advance, but they do offer a free consultation, and you never know. There might be something bothering you in life, a situation at home, a thought that you just haven't been able to clear. Why not try it? You know, and there's no harm in trying a new way of figuring things out.
Exactly.
Now, I think we're going to cut to a commercial here.
Okay.
When we come back, let's talk about personal. I know we've talked
Okay.
about art therapy and mental health and people wanting to make a difference. We'll forget about other people. We'll talk about you.
Okay.
That's all right?
Yeah, that's
All right,
great.
we'll be back. Welcome back. Now, just before we had gone, we were talking about art therapy and your location in Surrey and what you offer. Now, we'll talk about that again later on in the show. But let's talk about how you got into this. Now, I read a little bit on your website how you
Yeah.
enjoy art, but in life, like, was there ever a tough time that you went through and needed something like this? If there was, I would love to hear about that.
Definitely. So I've struggled myself with mental illness. I've struggled with anxiety disorders. I've had panic attacks really badly. And I went through a couple bouts of depression as well. So before all of that came about, I had actually began getting more serious into painting and creating artwork at the same time that I started university. So I'm 25 years old now. When I was 18 years old, I discovered painting, and it just kind of came into my life as something that wasn't planned.
When did you, like, the depression and everything? Is it a younger age as you're going through high school, or is it something that's been there?
I think that it really started to surface around my grade 12 year. So I was 17, 18 years old when it first came up. And it was the year after that I began painting and drawing and doing all these things. So I definitely struggled with anxiety, I think, on and off. I've always been quite an anxious person, but it never really began to affect my life until I was about 17 years old. And that was the age that I had my first panic attack.
How did it affect your life? Yeah.
It was one of those things that anyone who has anxiety will know what it feels like. It feels like this pit in your stomach. It's like this feeling that something bad's going to happen, but you don't have a rationale for why you feel that way. There's nothing you can pinpoint that's actually happened to make you feel that way, but it just kind of sits in your stomach. And yeah, it can be really unsettling and really scary, especially when you don't know why it's happening. And that's one of the things that for me, before I knew a lot about mental illness or any of these symptoms of anxiety and depression, it was not so much scary, but it's just the fear of the unknown. I didn't have a word for what I was feeling. I couldn't figure out why I was feeling that way. And so the more I learned about it, when I realized that a lot of people struggle with it, that was when it became a little bit easier for me to deal with. And I started finding out ways that I could deal with it. And so, like I'd mentioned, I began painting when I was 18 years old. And I noticed that the longer I was away from that creative outlet, the worse I would feel. When I was in university, and I would be stressed with things like exams and papers and just the struggles of university life. Yeah, just the struggles of life. I noticed that was a really great way for me to cope with that. And I never really made that connection that when I was creating and when I was expressing myself, it would help with my anxiety symptoms. When I was feeling really low and feeling really depressed and I didn't know why, when I was creating and making something, those symptoms would subside. And I never really figured out that connection. I didn't know what art therapy was. At this point in my life, I'd never gone to counseling. I'd never accessed those services. So it was kind of a spontaneous thing that came up. And years later, when I applied for my master's degree and I found out what art therapy was, it just clicked for me because that's what I had been doing all along without even noticing it.
So kind of by mistake, you fell on this and you just
Yeah.
found, oh, I don't feel anxious, or I don't feel, I guess it would domino into other parts of your life. If you're anxious and worried about something negative happening,
Yeah.
you start to lose confidence in stuff and you
do.
don't believe in, and you just think, oh no, why that would happen, or the worry kicks in.
It does, yeah.
Did you talk to anybody at home about this?
I didn't talk to anybody at home about this initially, and a big part of the reason was I didn't have any awareness around what it was. I didn't know that the feelings of anxiety or the feelings of sadness that I had were any different from what anybody else is experiencing. I had a lot of ignorance surrounding it. I didn't know what mental illness was and how it presented in daily life, which was so ironic because I was studying psychology at the time.
Well, they say denial is the first step.
It's true.
You want to say, no, it can't be happening to me, right?
Exactly.
And then until you accept it, you can't take the next step, right?
That's exactly what it was.
And the next step for you just happened by chance of picking up a brush.
Picking up a brush and painting and creating artwork. And I would notice, in retrospect, I noticed that I felt this way, but as it was all happening, I didn't realize what was going on. But for example, I would wake up one day and I'd be feeling really anxious. I would shake a lot. My heart would be racing. I'd have all those physical symptoms of anxiety. But the minute that I sat down and I would start painting or drawing or creating something, my mind would shut off completely and just be so focused on what I was doing. All of the worries that I had would go away and I would just get in this zone. I call it like the flow. I would always be in the flow and I'd be painting and I'd be drawing and everything would feel great. And then as soon as I stopped afterwards for about the next couple hours or the next day, depending on the situation, I would feel the sense of peace and the sense of calm. But I never made that relation between the two. Yeah.
So how long has art therapy been a real thing?
So a lot of people don't actually know a lot about art therapy, and it's still considered a relatively new field, but it's actually been around for years and years and years, probably since over 50 years it's been around. It just, I feel like, is coming into awareness more now into mainstream society. There's always those coloring books and the mandala coloring books that they have at chapters in any store you go to pretty much now. And what a lot of people don't realize is that's a tool that's used in art therapy.
I still have a coloring book at home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're really great. And I think a lot of people think they're so silly that adults are coloring, but there's so many therapeutic benefits behind them and behind why they work.
I'm sorry, I just was thinking about the last picture. We're not talking about this. Now, I'm going to ask you something. I was going to go to the home front, but let's stick to
Okay.
the art therapy. Sorry, I didn't want to get personal here. We'll do that after if she's comfortable with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, our viewers watching, you'd mentioned you've had an anxiety or a little bit of a depression. Now, we as people tend to judge. We see somebody who dresses well or looks good or their parents have money. We assume that they have everything. Never judge somebody by what they look, because what they're feeling on the inside is totally different from how they sometimes look. So that's what I wanted to say is definitely don't judge somebody. You just don't know what they're thinking or feeling inside. And if you yourself are having any sort of feelings that are negative, or you might think that bring you down. I'm not going to say normal, because nothing's normal. Everybody's unique in their own way. But if there's anything bringing you down, talk to somebody. That's the first step is communicating with somebody, whether it's a parent, a friend, a teacher. Like, did you have anybody at school that you were able to talk to?
I was actually really lucky in that I've always had a really great support system. And it wasn't so much for me that I didn't feel like I could reach out to people. It was just that I didn't know what I was experiencing.
Yeah, if you don't know, you don't have it. You don't even think.
And I think the more I began connecting with people, I've always been really close with my family, my immediate family, my cousins. I've always had a really great set of friends and everybody who are really open to it. And being a psychology major helped, because everyone was kind of in the same field.
And no one diagnosed you?
No.
You can't see it, right?
You can't
it's
see
internal.
it. And I think what you were saying is so important. You judge people by the way that they look or the way they carry themselves.
Or what their family has, or what the car they drive. We judge by visuals, right?
Exactly. And I think something that holds people back from speaking about mental illness or admitting to themselves that they might have an issue with something is that stigma that exists. And once we push past that stigma and we realize anxiety and depression are some of the most common mental illnesses that people struggle with, I think it's 1 in 5 Canadians will experience some form of depression or anxiety in their lives, which if you look at even your immediate family, that's at least one member living in your house in most cases, or at least one person in your group of friends. Yet we turn it in our minds, I think, into this big thing where it's scary and it's a mental illness and people are going to judge you and think differently of you, when it's almost as common as having a flu. I always have this analogy of you wouldn't be ashamed to go to the doctor and get help for having a flu. Yet when you're struggling with depression, there's so much stigma between going to a counselor and.
Why do you think? You think it's considered a weakness? Do you think somebody? Yeah. So they think less of themselves if they have depression.
I
I
definitely.
guess they're already depressed. I'm overanalyzing this now, but I'm trying to think. Yeah, what would make them from not coming forward?
I think a lot of the time, I always have this analogy between physical illness and mental illness, because I think with physical illness, there's a lot of traits on the outside that you can see. You can see if you have a runny nose, or if you're congested, if you're coughing lots. But the thing about mental illness is that it's all inside your head a lot of the time. There are physical symptoms, but we just might not be aware of what they are. But a lot of the time, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling drained of energy, it's so easy to fake that you're not that way. And it's so easy to carry on the tasks of your daily life without someone who's right in front of you seeing that those symptoms exist.
Speaking of somebody right in front of you, now you got me thinking, do I have that? Well, I know I do. I've always had this deep inner, not a depression, but not a worry, but hard to explain. We'll talk after.
Okay.
Now, say we do talk after,
Right.
and I show up at your clinic. How are you going to decide whether it's going to be yoga, art, or any other form of therapy?
So,
We're going to talk about that when we get back.
Sounds
Is that
good.
all right? Okay,
Yeah.
we'll be right back. So, right before we went to commercial there, we were asking, if I show up to the clinic, how are you going to decide the yoga clinic, art therapy?
Right.
What were the other forms you had mentioned?
So I think we can focus on talk therapy, yoga therapy, and art therapy today. So we have all of these different.
So you got speech.
Yes.
You got written. Then you got physical working out.
Yeah.
All 3 different.
Yeah. So
okay.
Movement, more creative expression through art, and then talking. We have different people at the clinic who specialize in different things. I personally do a lot of the art therapy. And so in our initial intake, in our consultation session, we kind of figure out what the person is comfortable with. They're all different modalities to get to the same path or the same goal, if that makes sense. They're different paths to get to the same goal.
I use the analogy of if you know where you're going and you can see the landmark, you'll get there. And I
Exactly.
always use the mountain, say like other side of town. You might not know the exact roads to take or the exact path, but if you can see your goal, you know you're heading in the right direction.
Exactly.
Now there's a million ways of getting there. You could take this road and come back. You could take the direct route. But that I love that analogy. It's like
Yeah.
there's the one destination, but getting there can be many different ways of getting there.
Exactly. And so some people will be a bit more comfortable with movement and with yoga and things like that. A lot of people will just be comfortable with talking, and that's kind of their comfort zone. And a lot of people are open to explore the art and the expressive side. I find that art therapy works really well for people who have difficulty verbalizing what they're talking about. And I know you talked about different languages or English proficiency. So I usually use a mixture of talk and art modalities. A lot of people focus more just on making art and they don't really want to talk about it too much. A lot of people will kind of dabble in the art a little bit, but then are more comfortable talking. But we really take it based on each individual. I can't say that there's a template for everybody. I really tailor everything to each individual person that I see.
Absolutely, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, the difference would be the amount of energy they're putting out. Some people are more comfortable like working out, going to the gym or physical lifting weights, whereas somebody else is more comfortable just running on a treadmill, right? But
Right.
those are both physical things. Now, does each one take a different time period? I'm just trying to think of like, we're getting to the same destination,
Right.
right? That's our goal, is to at ease, calm the person, have them feel comfortable about themselves.
Right.
Now, the time length, I guess, depends on the treatment or the person.
Well, all of our sessions are 50-minute sessions. Some people come more short term and some people come more long term. There'll be certain individuals who only will come for 6 sessions, and there's certain people who have come for years and years and also participate in workshops and group therapy and things like that. So it's a little bit hard to answer. It really depends on each person.
Okay. A technical question. If somebody is sick, can they apply for medical? Does this cover through medical in any way?
Yeah, we do have extended
wow.
healthcare benefits, which a lot of people don't know. Yoga therapy and art therapy is a form of counseling, so it actually is covered by your extended healthcare plans.
Check your plans, you guys. So you do get 2 free, I think, massages or physiotherapy clinics on your plan. So this fits in.
It does,
now,
yeah.
I think physical health is important, so stay in shape. But I think mental health is way more important than physical health. Like physical, you can fix it. You can work out, but mental health, that wrecks the physical too. So
I'm really glad you said that actually, because a lot of, when I talk to a lot of people who maybe don't see the value in their life that counseling can bring in, I always bring up that analogy where most people wouldn't hesitate to go to the doctor if they have a physical ailment, whereas if they have a mental ailment or just a problem or that they're struggling with, there's a lot more hesitation to go and visit your mental health professional, even though to me personally, I'm biased because I'm in the field, but I think they're one and of the same.
yeah.
You need mental tune-ups as much as you need physical tune-ups.
Absolutely. I'm going to key on a word you said.
Right.
Problem. Well, if you don't see it as a problem, how do you even fix it?
Yeah, and I use that word so hesitantly. I use it really delicately.
I caught that. And
Yeah.
It's like, what is a problem? Like when it gets in the way of everyday life, when it gets in the way of you communicating with your children or your sleeping. A simple form is that. If you're finding it very difficult to sleep, that could be a sign of having something bothering you, something on your mind.
Exactly. And I think it's so different again for each individual person, but I'm glad that you brought up sleeping. A lot of people won't realize that a problem is affecting, I said problem again.
That's okay.
A situation is
a
affecting
problem
them.
can be fixed. We bring it up as a problem because it's something we're going to take care of and change. Problem's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like an exit. Sure, it's an exit, but it's also an entrance into
True.
another world.
That's
so
true, yeah.
a problem doesn't have to be a problem. It's actually something good because you're fixing something. You're bettering yourself, right?
Exactly.
So you have to perceive it to be something good. It's given to you for a reason, and it's up to you to overcome it, right? So I don't mind the word problem. We overcome them.
Awesome.
All right. Now I know we've gone on about the clinic. I've talked about personal life.
Right.
Now it's yours. Anything you want to share with us or your audience about reaching out to them, just connecting with them? Let them know how to get in touch with you.
For sure.
If there's some things that they think could be an issue, why not reach out and get the consult,
For
right?
sure.
Okay.
Well, I can say from personal experience, from all the clients that I've worked with, the groups that I've led, I've never had a person try out art therapy and absolutely hate it or not gain some type of benefit for it. And especially at our clinic, we do free consultation. So it's a 50-minute time commitment, nothing more, no financial commitment. So it's worth a shot to come out and just see what it's all about. So as I mentioned before, you can reach us at familyhopeclinic.com. We also have Instagram and Facebook, which is just instagram.com/familyhopeclinic, facebook.com/familyhopeclinic. And you can reach out. I would say the best way is through our website, through our email, which is just info@familyhopeclinic.com.
Family Hope Clinic.
Clinic,
Who
yeah.
came up with that name?
The director of the clinic.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And so, what are your hours? You open weekdays?
Weekdays,
Weekends?
and there are some weekend availabilities as well.
Okay, so like you said, you do home consults as well, right?
do
So if
home
some people don't want to. So that's the key, you guys. I think in any life, any way of moving forward or betterment, it starts with reaching out and accepting whatever isn't normal. Like, who knows what normal is, right? We can't define what normal is. But if something just doesn't feel right, it doesn't have to be wrong. It's just different. And it can be fixed. It can be taken care of, or it might just be normal and you're just overthinking something. Reach out. Here's an idea right here. Like, you're gonna sit here talking on a show, talking about helping people, and she herself struggled with this,
I have, yeah.
right? And you wouldn't guess that. But at the same time, what we're gonna say is, don't judge anybody from what they look like, because you have no idea what somebody's going through.
True. And there's always hope for no matter what situation it is that you're in. There's always a different perspective. There's always different tools, and there's always something that you can do to help better the situation. Like you said, there's always a solution for whatever problem there is.
There's always a solution for whatever problem there is. There's always hope, and that's what we're gonna end it on, that there's always hope. All right? Tune in next time, you guys.